Aloha Hawaii, this is Potpourri Nui. Welcome back to the program. This program is Hawaiian Potpourri, and we have been talking quite a bit about focusing in on what has happened in the Middle East and inviting your comments, as well as what can we do in preparation for what some people are predicting, the eventuality of one way of putting it is all hell breaking loose, not only in the countries in the Middle East, but within the United States itself, as well as here in Hawaii. And how do we prepare for it? Do we anticipate it? We provide, or should we be providing some leadership for it in terms of making sure that the outcome is better than the present situation that we have right now? I guess you can look at it, and what would be the Hawaiian word for this idea of, is it really governance? And I think the word is ea. It's spelled E-A, and you can see that word in the motto of the Hawaiian nation, and it was then taken or borrowed by the state of Hawaii and used it now as a state motto. And it says, "Ua mau ke ea o ka aina I ka pono," that the air of the land is continued, or like ua mau, ua is oftentimes a past tense, but ua mau, to continue from the past and carrying it on, the air or the governance or the life of the land, ka ea o ka aina I ka pono, in pono, in appropriateness, in balance, in righteousness, in justice, in fairness, all of those qualities that are pono. The life of the land must be perpetuated in righteousness. At times we deal with the subject of ea, the subject merely as governance. But if you look deeper into the meaning of this word ea, it talks about two processes. It mixes the process of time and the process of life. In comparison with the physical elements around us, which for many very old time Hawaiian thinking is two of the God elements. Time represents the processing of things, the movement of things. It is also reflected in the winds or the air. It's there, but you don't really know it's there. You cannot really touch the air. But when it manifests itself in winds, then you know that it's coming. You know that it's that processing. And the element, ea, the element is a life element as represented by light or represented by the sun. So these two God elements, it talks about the processing of life itself, ka ea o ka aina, the life of the land, is preserved in righteousness, in pono. You cannot separate pono, or you cannot remove pono from appropriate ea. It has to be in pono. So as we look at the term, and as we look at the state motto, what does it all mean? It means that life as it unfolds itself must be in pono. The governance must be pono, must be appropriate. I had a discussion among some of us native Hawaiians, and so I wanted to point that out to them, and having shared it with them, I wanted to share it with you as well. Our telephone number here is 524-1080. Let's go to our caller. Aloha caller, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to discuss what you were saying about the international situation.
Yes, go ahead.
I wouldn't be quite as pessimistic as your second caller, where he said the collapse would be about 2025.
Yes. Well, the last caller said in 2 years it was going to collapse.
Oh no, that's too soon. In fact, even the second one, I'd like to be a little bit more optimistic,
Okay.
but that's not. I'm not talking about but it could. If the Republicans get in, he's probably correct. It could be a whole lot sooner, and it could happen then. I would like to think that it would go on, longer. And then you were just mentioning your last words were about the governance.
Yes.
Should be Pono.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why I was going to try to call you earlier, but then I got busy with something else, so I hung up, and now here I am again. And that is the problem with the world. People are just not being morally, good. And this is why a couple of weeks ago when I called you and I said that politics remind me now of religion, it's because I felt that the way the Republicans were campaigning, even during, all through George W.'s time, when you campaign with lies, the government will collapse eventually.
Okay. Yes.
And when your leaders do not have morals, high moral standards, then your followers will do the same. They said, if he's not honest, why should I be? And so it becomes a vicious cycle. But as it is now, people are just trying to, just get away. They're doing their own things, and it's just not right.
Yeah.
And this is why I was fearing for the collapse of democracy. And that's why I started becoming a little bit more active. And when I was helping even, I said, I'm finally trying to do my civic duty, because now I can see the dangers of, if democracy collapses, everything else, the world will collapse too. And then the way I relate it to religion is because then Armageddon is that much sooner. Because then people will have less morality. But I think the world is going to suffer a whole lot more beyond 2025. And then, finally, it's going to collapse. And this is why I feel that your leaders, and I think Obama is trying to be very honest. And a lot of the problems that you talk about internationally, those were already pretty much set up by previous leaders, American presidents.
Yes.
So it's not up to Obama to break that, style
trend,
of doing
that style,
things, especially when he is having so much domestic problems where people don't even believe the truth. They keep saying that he is foreign-born, and that he doesn't have a birth certificate. And, if people are going to be that skeptical and that uneducated
Yeah.
and not know right from wrong. How in the world are you going to know right from wrong in government? You know, your everyday government, whether you live here in Hawaii or in Mississippi or North Carolina or the Dakotas, Montana, you know? And it's the red states that do have more of the less educated people. The educated ones are great, you know, coming out from there. But there are a lot of them because the states are so large. They're living in rural areas where they're kind of far away from their neighbors or from, you know, various kinds of news and television, you know, available to them. And so I can't really blame them if they're more, say, narrow-minded or more provincial in their thinking.
So you're very polite with what you call them. You're not calling them hicks.
No.
Or country jacks.
There are some that are smart enough, but, you know, they're living in distant places. And if it's not available to them where they're living, you know, it's, I can't totally blame them. I would blame the politicians for disseminating lies. And of course, these people are trusting too.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of people here in Hawaii are trusting. So they would believe these the politicians because they would say, oh, they're officials, you know. They're political officials. Oh, they're my senator, or blah blah blah. You know, and then if somebody hates the president, then the words go out, and it just spreads. And so this is why a lot of those red states are red because they have the same mentality, and nobody has told them otherwise because they probably don't have the kind of stations that do carry the other point of view. They're only hearing the Republicans who are constantly lying. Even here in Honolulu, I don't listen to a lot of the radio stations except KWAI.
Okay, good choice.
Because Tom Hartman is on this program.
Yeah, he has a wonderful program. Yeah,
yes.
You're right.
And, you know, and then there are other things like the medical, you know, Duke and the Doctor. But those are kind of informational.
Yeah.
And so they don't lie. They kind of give their opinions.
Yeah.
But, and other things that I do listen, you know, from television, and I do realize sometimes that our newspaper, because it's a monopoly, has a tendency not to print, you know, certain kinds of news. But what surprised me was when a lot of our political heads, like the Republican chairman, the Democratic chairman was a little bit more knowledgeable, but they were on the public network, and Dan Boylan, being very truthful, he just said, well, I don't know anything about Medicare and all that complex stuff, you know. And he thought the voucher program was just as good for himself. But he doesn't know that, and he keeps thinking that the voucher program will continue indefinitely. Not so. From the information that I get, and from what you know, adds up, it's going to end possibly if you have the Ryan plan as they have it, and because Ryan and Romney are very secretive, but people out of their ignorance will vote them in, even though they don't know what they stand for. Because Romney has not been specific about anything. And he has flip-flopped or, say, lied, you know, has stolen falsehood one after the other just to please whoever he is talking to. And but people will just make up their minds, and they said, oh, I'm voting for Romney because I'm a Republican. But the way I have done things is I listen to both sides, and even the Republican convention was terrible for the Republicans because they were just disseminating lies, especially Paul Ryan with his budget plan and health care plan.
Yeah.
One lie after the other, and people are sucking it all up. Now as post-convention, and then whereas the Democratic convention, I thought some of the greatest oratorial, speeches were at that convention because the people were passionate. It came from their heart, and what they wanted to do was truly do what is best for the people.
Yeah.
And when you do things truly from your heart for the people, middle class, the poor, and give them the same breaks that they had, then that's what makes great oratory, I guess. And that's why Clinton was so great, because he rebutted point after point. And that's what I keep telling myself every time I listen to the TV or whatever. I said, Obama got to just put somebody out there and rebut all those lies that the Republicans are putting out, and especially that health care. They don't know how helpful.
I agree with you that there were good orators at the Democratic convention. At the Republican convention, not as great. But the thing that was missing in both conventions was, I think, very important discussions about human rights, about the National Defense Authorization Act. You see, a convention is a time when the people from the grassroots, from all of the different states, are able to go and hopefully discuss platforms. But nobody talked about the Patriot Act. Nobody talked about why is Bradley Manning held in confinement without charges. Nobody talks about why the whole idea of habeas corpus has just been swept away, why drone planes are being used in violation of international law, and all of those issues. Both conventions ignored that.
And you know what? I think it's because they were addressing the people of the United States.
Well, they were addressing the politics and the political race, but it didn't give it wasn't really a convention. It was a hype to gather together and try to focus in.
Yes, it was more like a campaign rally, wasn't it?
Yeah, a debate preparation to set where your position is as opposed to somebody else's. And I would agree with you. The Democrats have put out a far better program
and
than
we had
the
some
Republicans.
Hawaii representatives there.
That's
and
right.
I thought Tammy Duckworth was terrific in her speech for the veterans.
Yeah, but what was the principle of it? Was it a question of whether or not the veterans fought an honorable war? Or what are you going to now pay to the veterans for their injuries? And that question was never addressed.
During George Bush's time, they ignored the injured veterans.
Well, yeah, but
that's why with Shinseki, Obama appointed Shinseki to take charge because
the Veterans Administration.
General Shinseki himself, I understand, was injured, so he knows. What an injured soldier goes through.
Yeah, but we all understand that, and I don't think there's any debate. It's just a matter of how do you perform the services that the soldiers should be entitled to. But the underlying question of putting soldiers in a war that is immoral, that has no moral basis for it, not only in Vietnam, but in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the continual using of CIA to be actually terrorist organizations to go in and destabilize other governments. Where was that debate? And those are issues that needs to be addressed. But that debate should have been
held during George Bush's time, because he was the one that went into war.
George Bush,
I keep telling, like my daughter and sons, or I said, this is the first time that war in Iraq. Well, I can understand they're getting after, Al Qaeda, but to get into war with Iraq. That was an offensive by the USA,
Yes.
I think.
Yes, it was.
And George Bush wanted to do it for his own personal reason, but that's where we shouldn't have gone in, because that's where a lot of the U.S. military got killed.
Well, and what about the next question? If George Bush committed an international crime by the conducting of a war based on false reasons, based on no justification, based on a violation of international law, why isn't the Obama administration going after them?
Because at first they didn't have the consensus.
I'm sorry?
They didn't have enough people. And then you got to also realize that even though there were some Democrats, more Democrats, a lot of them were blue dogs.
Yeah, but that ignores the issue I'm raising. If George Bush, along with Cheney and along with Rumsfeld and even Rice and Powell are all in that group that committed international atrocities, why are they not prosecuted? And that should be another issue that should have been debated.
Yes, I can see that, but because the majority at that time, even your Supreme Court justices were more Republicans, so they were thinking that they would try to get, they were thinking probably more about the economy now and trying to get that back, because that situation would have taken years to resolve.
But it has to be, the debate has to be cast, and there was
an opportunity. And
a
lot of the questions that you asked about, the human rights and things, I think they may bring it up in a debate, the presidential debate.
Well, hopefully they will.
And that's why maybe there was, they were covering only certain areas. Because those things are more complex, and most people, especially the Americans, they don't care what's going on overseas as long as they are well-fed, well-clothed, educated.
Well, if you look at the budget, the American budget, and the reason for the troubles that they now have, it's not because of paying for school or paying for medication or anything like that. It's because of trying to conduct a war.
Right.
And yet nobody wants to pay attention to it, and the conventions are supposed to be drawing that attention to what is going on, and not playing politics.
Well, maybe that's the problem with the, Americans like us. Maybe we're so narrow-minded, we're only thinking about our veterans and the safety of our veterans rather than the human rights, issues.
Yeah.
And so something like that is, I think, a little more complex and more sophisticated.
Yeah.
So I think they may, however, bring it up, like you mentioned,
my dear.
In the debate.
Okay, we have 3 minutes, and I have another caller.
Okay.
So I want to thank you very much for calling and sharing your
listening.
thoughts. Take care. Aloha.
All right, bye.
And we go to our next caller. Aloha caller. Welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you think that the American people in general are well informed?
I think there's a group that are well informed.
The minority.
It is a minority, that's correct.
And so therefore, whenever you are running a campaign for election, you have to address your arguments at the convention toward the majority who will vote.
I don't think
and
so.
You have to be very careful, because if you offend them, say the wrong thing. Let me ask you,
let me tell you why. Let me respond to that. To me, a convention should be an opportunity.
I already heard that. You said it earlier, and we don't have much time.
Yeah.
But the point is that the members of Congress were put there by the majority of the American people. And Congress is not doing its job. Do you agree?
Oh, yes.
Yet, the American people voted for them.
And I think the American people need to be educated and not just treated as feeding it to the swines. And that is by engaging in these discussions and not just keeping the discussion at the lowest common level so everybody can engage in that.
For over 30 years, the right wing has controlled the radio waves. Okay, as a consequence, the United States is turning into an oligarchy. You agree with that?
Yes. Over the last, let's say, 3 years and before that, yes. But the media is making a change now in the last, let's say, the last 2 years.
Then why did they put the Republicans in control of Congress in 2010?
Oh, because of the very low level of discussions that has been going on.
You got it.
And that's why I'm saying we need to take advantage.
We have the government that the people have voted for.
Yes. Okay. Let's continue. This discussion is very good, but we're not going to be able to complete it. Thank you very much for calling. Take care. Aloha.
Kaulana nā pua o Hawaiian. Hope o ka aina Iki mai ka elele o ka loko ino Pala pala anunu me ka paka Pane mai Hawaii moku o ke ave Koku ana honoa o Kako o mai kaua I o mano Paapu me ke one o ka kuhi hewa Aolea e kau I ka pulima Maluna o ka pepa o ka enemi Po o hui aina no sivila a o ke kanaka